The IRS grace period on IRAs is over. If you inherited an IRA after 2019 and haven't taken annual distributions, the penalty is 25% of everything you should have pulled out and is already stacking up.
Welcome to Leibel on Fire with Amazon best-selling author and Yields for You portfolio manager, Leibel Sternbach. Leibel on Fire is supported by our ETFs, Yields for You Strategy A and Relative Strength Managed Volatility. Our mission is to help 1 million people retire with financial security. Now, the financial independence and retirement show dedicated to helping you build the life of your dreams as fast as possible with as little stress as possible. It's Leibel on Fire.
He's Amazon's best-selling author of the book entitled Living with Financial Anxiety and also the book Authenticity. And if you'd like to visit his website, it's yields4u.com. That's yields, the number 4, the letter u.com. Leibel, hello and welcome back.
Hey, how are you doing today?
Unbelievable. And I'm talking favorably about the IRS today. You know, they gave people a grace period on inherited IRAs. That's a good thing, right? So what changed in 2026 that makes this a real problem now?
Yeah, so for, in Trump's first administration, he passed a law, the Secure 2.0 Act. So Secure Act and then the Secure 2.0 Act, which basically said that among a whole lot of changes, one of them was the 10-year rule for IRAs, which is the worst possible thing. That it's short-sighted of our government, and it is going to create a huge tax bomb for a whole lot of people. However, part of it was said that if you inherited these IRAs, you had 10 years to take those distributions. Another thing that it said in there was that if you didn't take the distributions, RMDs that you were required, they reduced the penalty on doing that. Well, for many years, everyone asked the IRS, okay, well, how do you want us to take these 10-year distributions? Are we doing it based on the schedule that we had before for regular inherited IRAs? Are we doing it based on some new schedule? Are we just doing whatever we want, making sure they count to zero at the end of 10 years? And the law that Congress passed was ambiguous, right? Mm-hmm. And so it was up to the IRS to come up with regulations for how to do this. And for a number of years, they just punted and said, we're not quite sure how to do this, so do whatever you want. We're not going to penalize you. Well, they stopped doing that this past year, and they said, no, now you've got to take distributions. Here's how you have to take the distributions. Here's how you calculate it. If you don't take it, there's going to be a penalty, right? And you're going to get that 25% penalty. You gotta correct it. If you correct it, that penalty gets reduced, which is useful and helpful. However, the bigger tax bomb is that you have 10 years to take out that distribution. And that is a real killer for a whole lot of people.
Everybody, we're talking with Leibel Sternbach, and we're talking about the inherited IRA. And I've got a scenario for you. As you were just talking, I was thinking it through. Let's say that someone's dad passed away, let's say in 2020, 6 years ago, and left a $500,000 IRA. Not touched it, not done anything with it, Leibel. How much does that person owe in penalties right now in real dollars?
Well, they're going to have to take that RMD, right, that is required. That is going to be based on the age of the person who passed away, and that is really important. So for everyone, it's going to be different. Right now, the penalty is going to be, unless they correct it, right, within the time frame that the IRS has allowed it is that 25% tax penalty. So whatever their taxes were, right, so let's say the RMD was $10,000. They didn't take that. They would then have 25% tax penalty on top of that. So not only do they have to take the $10,000 distribution, they now have to pay an additional $2,500 penalty unless they correct it within time, in which case that gets reduced. So again, no fun. But again, this is distraction from the real problem. The real problem is that at the end of year 10, right, they are going to have to take all of that out of the retirement accounts, right? So $500,000 distribution. You're worried about your, $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 distribution. That's nothing by comparison to having a $500,000 distribution. Just to put that in perspective, right? Very few people are earning $500,000 a year. But guess what? year 10, you're going to show on your tax return of $500,000 worth of income. And that doesn't count the market growth, right? Hopefully, I really hope that thing is growing, right? All of a sudden, you're going to have taxable income of $500,000. That's going to push you into the 37% tax bracket, almost certainly. If you're taking Social Security, that's going to bump up taxes on Social Security. You're going to have to pay Medicare surcharges, Medicare premiums. Everything's going to go up. Even your capital gains on the normal investments, you get your qualified dividends, and your profit and losses in your brokerage accounts, which probably weren't much every year. All of a sudden, that's going to go up into the highest tax bracket. So if you don't plan for that, you are in for a surprise, because all of a sudden it's not going to be your inheritance. It's going to be the IRS's inheritance. And Mr. President is going to be very grateful for your donation to our coffers to help fund all of our various adventures around the world. So
needless to say, there's at the very least a hole in the boat, right?
There's a tiny hole that you're like, I'll just stuff a rag in there. I'll put my toe over it. It's not a problem, right? But guess what? As you get closer to shore, all of a sudden the bottom's getting ripped out from you.
So then, what's the smartest way to spread these withdrawals over the remaining years, so the tax bill doesn't push you or push the kids into a higher bracket and giving the government all the money that you just outlined that we would be doing?
Yeah, so that it is this. So I'm going to say, while you inherited, this is now your problem, right? You got to deal with this. The first thing that we got to do is we got to look at your tax return. We got to reduce as much taxable income as possible on there, because every penny that we have in taxes, right, is going to push up the taxes that we pay on those distributions. So the idea is get our tax bracket as low as possible so that we can take out as much distributions as possible at a lower tax bracket, right? And really manage our tax brackets as effectively as possible. So that's number one. Number two is that we want to make sure that our investments are invested in a way that will participate in the market, because the market statistically, a 5% correction happens every 3.5 months. I mean, like literally, we just had one. And before you blinked, it was gone, right? 5.5%. So a 5% correction happens every 3.5 months. 10% correction happens every 18 months. And a 20% or greater happens every 3.5 years. So with that knowledge that this happens on a statistical basis, right? And we've got a 10-year window, all we got to do is sit there and wait for the Roth-conversion opportunities to present themselves. And or the distributions in this case, right? So when those distribution opportunities occur and the market corrects, instead of going, oh, right, what am I going to do? Is the market going to recover? And be worried, be like, yay, I just saved 5% or 10% on my taxes, and take that distribution. So that is number two. And then number three, right, is you really, really want to make sure that you have a plan in place for this, so that when the time comes to have that lump sum distribution, that you're paying the least amount of taxes as possible.
There are some people right now who are sitting in their offices or sitting in their home office at home, watching television, listening to you, watching you. So what can they do right now? Is there a tool or a calculator at Yields for You to which we can avail ourselves to help us to navigate through all these different changes that happen throughout the year and every 10 years?
Yeah, so when it comes to this distribution planning, so we're actually working on a tool to put on our website. We've got the Roth-conversion tools, and we got the RMD tools, and we got the 60-second retirement plan tools on our website. You go use those for free. We're working on one for this inherited IRA problem. However, in the meantime, the same way that we built these tools was because people came to us, and we do our free retirement tax law analysis, where we'll look for you. We'll look where your finances are today. We'll project out into the future, and we'll map out for you what we think are your biggest strengths, weaknesses, threats, and opportunities, and give you a plan of action of what to do for second, third, right? And then based on doing hundreds of those analysis, that's how we built our tools. So come to us, take us up on that offer. More than happy to do it. Go to our website, click the book appointment, and we're more than happy to do that and help you figure out this this beautiful mess that you've been given, right? Sorry for your loss. Sorry for the fact that you got to pay taxes. Glad that you have the problem to pay taxes and that to avoid the taxes. And we will help you figure out all the tools in your toolbox to bring to bear.
Last scenario for you.
Yeah.
So I've got kids who just might inherit my IRA someday. I don't know when. What should I be doing right now so that they don't end up in the exact same trap that you just outlined right now?
So depends on how much money we're talking about, depends on what your health is and your age, right? They're very, everyone's a unique situation. And I don't just say that, glibly, right? There it really is, the truth is that everyone's got their own unique situation. And you got to see how the convergence of facts come together to be able to create a plan for you. And what's right for one person is wrong for the other person. When you're taking Social Security, how much you're taking Social Security, how much taxable income you have. And then, because those required minimum distributions are going to make you take that out while you're still alive, right? So if I just go and say, oh, well, you should do X, Y, Z, that might not be the case for you. So what I will tell you is, right, the same thing that we do when you inherit it, we can do that same planning before you pass, before you give it over. And we can map that out for you and say, okay, this is the worst case scenario for your beneficiaries, right? If you drop dead today, what would that look like? What happens if it's in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, right? And then map out for you those different scenarios and say, okay, based on this tax implication that we're talking about, right? And maybe we got one kid who's not working and another one who, they're already in the, 24% tax bracket. So any amount of money they get is going to be, push them over to the 37%. And we'll map that out for you and say, okay, this is what we think you should do, right? Every year you should do a Roth conversion of 20,000, 50,000, 200,000, right? Everyone's different. Or we might tell you, don't do Roth conversions at all. Maybe it's better for you to get a life insurance policy and pay the taxes, right? And then you also have something that if you need the money while you're still alive, you can benefit for it that way. It's something that I tell people all the time, right? If you're super conservative and you got that money in high yield savings, well, you got other problems than paying taxes, but having Roth conversions, guess what? 15 years, when that gets inherited by your kids or your grandkids, it's not going to be worth a whole lot much. And I'm not really worried about the taxes at that point, right? Because you've lost a whole lot of money to inflation, right? And that's one way to solve the problem, right? So,
Probably not the way we all want to solve it, but certainly.
Right. But that's really what it comes down to, right? Is we got to figure it out. We got to figure out who has the problem, what the problem is that they're going to have, and then figure out the best plan to solve it. What I will tell you, right? We see a lot of people who've got, $2-3 million in their retirement accounts, and they're just invested in the S&P 500 because that is what built them that wealth. They have, Social Security pension that covers all their needs. Maybe they're drawing down a little bit. Most of them aren't. And they come to us, and what we do is strategic Roth conversions. It's just every year, market dips, we're going to correct, right? We're waiting for those opportunities. We're going to convert it when the market is down and save them on that taxes so that they are giving over a tax-free inheritance to their kids and their grandkids who don't have to worry about those distributions, and they don't have to worry about the IRS taking 40% of their wealth.
Wow. Learned a lot today, and you can even learn more at yields4u.com. That's yields, the number 4, the letter u.com. I know you're saying it with me, and you can get all that information that you want. And as Leibel has said, you can book some free time with him as well. Now, you can still request a penalty waiver and spread the remaining withdrawals to protect your tax bracket, but only if you act right now. Call your advisor this week and get a plan on paper. For Leibel Sternbach, I'm Freddie Bell, and this is Leibel on Fire. We'll see you next time.
If you would like to see how the Yields for You team can help you get off the Wall Street roller coaster and save you money on taxes so you can live the life of your dreams, book an appointment online at yields4u.com. or call 410-914-4894.
Yields for You is a registered investment advisor in the state of New York and only transacts business in states where the firm is properly registered or is excluded or exempted from registration requirements. Registration as an investment advisor is not an endorsement. Information presented on this program is believed to be factual and up to date, but we do not guarantee its accuracy, and it should not be regarded as a complete analysis of the subjects discussed. Discussion should not be construed as an offer to buy or sell or solicitation of any offer to buy or sell the investments mentioned. Annuity guarantees are subject to the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. Content should not be viewed as legal or tax advice. Always consult an attorney or tax professional regarding your specific legal or tax situation.